All right, let's start our coverage of COVID-19 and the national lockdown at this hour in the Western Cape, where despite the lockdown, motorists in that province and in some parts of the country, in other parts as well, have been taking to the roads this long weekend. Let me take you live now to ENCA's Monique Mortlock, who has an update for us. And Monique, I believe some policing action on the go as we speak. What's happening?
Yes, Tulas, as I was waiting to cross to you here behind me, what's playing out, okay, I can't show, we're going to be very careful not to show the identity of the gentleman who has just been detained by Metro Police, because when they opened his boot, I think my colleague can just quickly show you, when the officers opened the boot, they found chips and all sorts of other groceries like amazi and sweets and so on, which looks as if it might be for a tuck shop or a spaza shop. But then they also discovered, upon further investigation with the help of the K9 unit, they discovered this stack of cigarettes that you see here, which is obviously illegal. As you know, the selling of cigarettes and alcohol is banned. And they then proceeded to detain the driver. My colleague and I are just moving a bit closer. As you can see, the officers are doing a full search of the vehicle and all of the occupants inside the car, just to check that there aren't any more boxes of cigarettes or any more illegal items in the vehicle. All of the items are now being placed back into the car. We are just going to try and be very careful not to identify anyone like the driver, for example, because he is the one who has been detained, and he was originally first stopped. He was first pulled over onto the side of the road because he didn't have a permit, and upon further inspection of the vehicle, it was then that police made this discovery. As you can see what's happening behind me.
Sure, and well done on you to be that careful, because of course people do have their rights in terms of due processes at law. But I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that initially the issue had to do with the permit, the relevant permits to be on the road, because as we know, the regulations are, unless you are an essential service provider, essential service worker, making your way to work and or back from work, and you have the relevant letters of authority, or you are simply going to your local grocery or seeking medical assistance, you really have no reason to be out there on the roads.
Exactly, and this is something we've heard from various officials who we spoke to today, from the Western Cape Transport MEC to the Traffic Department's Deputy Chief, the City of Cape Town's Deputy Chief. As you can see, the gentleman is now being detained. That is the City of Cape Town's Metro Police who has made that detainment until SAPS can obviously process this. And we just had to show you that visual just briefly. And yes, you are so right. We're still seeing people not complying with the law here on this stretch of road, specifically at this roadblock on the R300, compared to all of the other roadblocks we've been to today, from the N1, the N2, and even the M5. We've seen more people being stopped here at this roadblock for not abiding to those lockdown regulations, more people being told you're not driving with a permit, you don't have the necessary documentation. Right now, this gentleman is being read his rights, and he's being placed in the vehicle of the law enforcement officer. My colleague obviously being very careful not to identify the gentleman who has just been arrested for traveling with that contraband.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's great work. I think let's stick with those visuals for a while, Monique. And my understanding is that once the whole process has played itself out, they usually just drive off with the suspect, as we saw those handcuffs there, but also someone else, an officer, will then be taking care of moving that gentleman's vehicle, which we saw earlier on. They were putting some of those products back into the boot of his car, and it looks like he will be taken in by police at this time.
Yes, it seems as if they will be allowing some of the occupants who were in the car to drive off. There you see, the car is driving off. They are being allowed to it is one of the officers I see who is driving the car, and it's most likely that the officer is going to be driving along with the law enforcement officer where the suspect is being kept in the back seat. They will obviously be driving to the same destination for further processing, because as we showed you, in the boot, in the back of that vehicle is where they place those illegal cigarettes, but in the vehicle of the suspect is where all of those other goods are still. And this is what officers questioned the passengers about, whether they have a permit to be transporting all of these goods, which are clearly for a shop, a small informal shop.
Right, Monique, thank you. Good work there with our camera colleague there, and do pass it on, because this is live TV. You're taking all your knowledge about the rights of the person who's being detained and the need for you to be sensitive, but also at the same time dealing with the technicalities of needing to find your focus and knowing where to point your camera and where not to point it. But we did see enough of that to tell us and to emphasize, stay at home unless you have reasons that are within the lockdown regulations to be out there. ENCA's Monique Mortlock out in Cape Town there.